everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Violet and thank you guys so much for stopping by. It means a lot. Today's video is a really exciting one because we will be covering the home buying process from start to finish, and I'm making the video as comprehensive as possible because, as you guys can imagine, buying a home can be overwhelming and stressful, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. So I hope this is of value to those of you who want to buy in the next year or in the next coming years, because as you guys probably know, there's a lot of preparation involved. For example, you have to make sure your credit score is stellar so you can lock in the best interest rate possible, and you have to make sure that you have the sufficient funds for a down payment and closing costs. You also have to make sure that your documents are in order. So if you're an employee, you're going to need to show tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, and bank statements. And if you're self-employed, the requirements are even more strict because the lender wants to make sure that you're financially stable enough to pay down the loan. So a little background about me. I am an economics major from NYU. I graduated a couple of years ago, and I'm really interested in studying trends to then forecast. So when it comes to real estate, I like looking at different market areas and analyzing the appreciation values to then make my own forecast as to what I think will provide the best rate of return later on. However, this video really caters to those of you looking to purchase for personal use as a primary residence. So for you investors, I will make videos later on. However, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please subscribe so that you're notified every time I do post, and please give me a like and leave a comment down below. But let's get started. So one of the first questions many buyers have when they're looking to purchase a home is, how much money am I going to need saved up for the down payment for a primary residence? Now the answer to that is that it really depends on the type of loan that you opt for, and most people can qualify for two different types of loans: a conventional or an FHA loan. And a conventional loan is a privately issued loan by a bank or other private entity, and usually the requirements are more strict for these in terms of your credit score, income amounts, and down payment. So you will have to put down more of a down payment, between 10 and 20%, and I always recommend buyers that opt for conventional loans to, if they have time, to save a little bit more so they can put down 20% and avoid paying PMI or private mortgage insurance. That's another charge that you have to pay on a monthly basis if you put down less than 20%. The next option is the FHA loan, and this is a government issued loan, and the requirements are less strict, so it makes home buying a lot easier, and you can put down as low as 3.5%. However, you are seen as more of a risk, so the interest rate is higher as you're statistically more likely to go into default. So that would also be another option. It's also a very good program, makes home buying very easy without tying up a lot of your liquid capital in the process. Two other loans that you may qualify for are the VA and USDA loan. And the VA loan is for veterans. It's a really good program. You can lock in really low interest rates with no money down. And then the USDA program is issued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it's for low-income families that live in more agricultural areas. So those are also two programs that should be considered when speaking to a lender. And I always recommend buyers speak to lenders before they even look at properties to get that pre-approval letter, because once you like a property, it'll expedite the process having that letter good to go to send to the seller, and the seller will take you seriously if you come with an approval letter. Usually they require it, but yeah, always speak to a lender before looking to buy a home. Alright, so let's talk about something that's really important in determining the interest rate you're going to lock in when buying a home, and that's your credit score. Now, it's important to build up your credit because that really is the grade that determines how likely you are to pay off a loan. So lenders take that very seriously, and I was lucky enough to have my mom open up a credit card for me when I turned 18, so it's been building up over time, as credit history does play a factor in your credit score. So if you have children, I always recommend just get them a credit card. I mean, it'll start with like a $300, $500 limit, and have them put gas or groceries, any small charges on it, and just pay it off every month, and that'll be a way to build up their credit history. Another tip I have is keep your utilization under 10%. I know people say 30%, but I always say 10% because I found that my credit shot up when I kept it under 10%, and it actually went into the 800s. It was like 820 when I had it under 10%. Another tip on increasing your credit score is have a diversified credit portfolio. So of course, don't borrow money if you don't have to, but if you do have to, it can actually work in your favor to borrow different types of money. So for example, I have a student loan, credit card debt, and a home loan, and I found that this has really helped increase my credit because it shows that I have different types of credit and can handle all of them in conjunction with each other. Now, there are so many factors that play a part in your credit score, so I want to make a video in the future touching on that in more detail later on. However, I did want to touch base on it a little bit here because it does play an important role in your home buying process and the interest rate that you're going to ultimately lock in. Now, the maximum DTI for a conventional loan is 45%, and that accounts for all expenses, including your home loan. So all expenses 45%, 25% or less than your income. However, there's common financial advice that's given that talks about the 28-36% rule, and really that talks about your home expenses accounting for 28% or less of your income, and all of your other expenses, including your home expense, to account for 36% or less of your income. So that's good advice to follow. So the first thing you should do when you're getting ready to start your search is speak to a lender and get pre-approved, because it's so heartbreaking when buyers go out and look at houses and fall in love and then just realize that it's out of their price range and they can't even make an offer on it. And it's even more heartbreaking when a buyer goes out, finds their dream house, really wants to make an offer, but has to wait until the pre-approval letter is completed, and by that time it's too late because somebody else has gotten their offer accepted on the house. So that's even more heartbreaking. So number one step is always speak to a lender, always get pre-approved, and know what you can afford. However, to get pre-approved, you have to provide every single expense that you've made in your entire life and every single penny that you've made. You have to provide all the documentation for that. Now, I'm only kidding, but you will have to provide a ton of documentation, such as 1 to 2 years of tax returns, 1 to 2 years of W-2s, pay stubs, 2 to 6 months of expenses, 2 to 6 months of bank statements. You'll have to provide your full credit report and any other documents detailing your assets, liabilities, and what's in your portfolio. And if you're self-employed, they will look at you with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that you are financially stable enough to pay off what they are letting you borrow, essentially. So a lot of times people will ask me when the best time to buy is, and really there's no good answer for it. It really depends. A lot of the time in the summer there's more activity, there's more inventory, more competition. You see more multiple offer deals, and you end up locking a higher price for the house because there is more competition, more demand, and the prices are just higher. And then in the winter there's less inventory, but the sellers that are selling and the buyers that are looking are very interested and very motivated, and you can end up getting a better price in the winter because there's less competition out there, but also there's less to choose from because a lot of sellers wait until the summer to sell for some reason. So there's really no good answer. It all depends on you. A lot of people will ask me, should I wait for the market to crash? And I'm not a big fan of timing the market because you really don't know. I mean, you can get lucky that way, but you can also miss out on a lot of opportunities. So especially when it comes to real estate typically is a good long-term investment. So if you're going to buy a house to hold on to it, I always recommend that. I mean, just do it whenever you're ready. Don't wait for the market to crash. You might get lucky, but also you might miss out on a lot of good opportunities out there. So now that you're ready to start looking for a house, one of the very important things that you should do in order to avoid getting overwhelmed by the amount of inventory on the market is write down your non-negotiables. So these are things that you won't be able to change or that will cost way too much money for you to change. So for example, the location, that's something you won't be able to change. So if that's a deal breaker, if the location is too far from your job or anything, make sure to write that down as a non-negotiable and only look within a certain radius of your workplace. If the amount of bedrooms would be too difficult for you to add on, too expensive, so you need to have a minimum of 3 bedrooms, especially to be comfortable and for the house to be move-in ready once you submit an offer on it, then have that as a non-negotiable. 3 bedrooms, number of bathrooms, square footage. Is 1,200 square feet too small for you? Then go up to 2,000 or start looking there. What about the backyard? Would you like a bigger lot space? Because that's something that you may not be able to change. You might not be able to buy the lot behind you or the lots next to you to expand your lot. So really think about all of those non-negotiables, and then think about your desirables. So what would you like to have? Would you like to have a pool in the future? Well, if the house already has a pool, that could be great for you, but it doesn't need it, right? Would you like to have an open floor plan, a patio, a fireplace? Write all of those things down because that will really help you start your search and get the ball rolling on looking at houses. Another question a lot of people have when looking to purchase a house is, should I use a realtor or not? And I'm a realtor here in Texas, so I'm a bit biased, but I would say that most of the time you're better off using a realtor than not. A lot of people don't understand the commission structure, so let me just explain it here. So the listing agent and the seller actually agree to a commission rate before the house is even listed on the market, and the seller more than likely will end up paying that rate regardless if you have an agent or not. So for buyers, it's really a free service for you to use, and it can be greatly beneficial to you. A good agent will pay for themselves time and time again, but a bad agent can cost you a lot of money. My advice to you in choosing an agent would be to go with someone that you know would have your best interest at heart and isn't just trying to make a quick sale, because there's so many intricacies involved in a real estate transaction, and it's so easy to miss something that could really be a big deal later on. There's also a lot of emotion involved in buying a house, especially for personal use, so you need someone that will really help you think logically in a situation and to show you the data, right? To show you the numbers. Does it make sense to pay this amount of money per square foot? You need someone that will really be honest with you and that you can trust. So really think about it wisely before choosing an agent. my advice to you is not to choose anyone that does it part-time, because there's so much involved in real estate that you really have to do it full-time to become an expert in the field. Now, how do you price an offer? This is a very important topic because I've seen buyers get very emotional and they really want a house and they offer more than what we're seeing the house is worth. And this is particularly important if you're getting financing, because there's going to be an appraisal. And if the appraisal doesn't match the sales price of the house, you're either going to have to put more money down or the lender won't feel confident and you won't get funded for it. So it's important to pay what the house is worth if you are getting financed. And in any situation, if you're paying cash, you also don't want to overpay. It's important not to let your emotions get the best of you. So the inspection report is one that can really cause panic with a lot of buyers, especially first-time home buyers who don't realize that it's the inspector's job to point out every single flaw in the home. Especially if it's an older home, the inspection report is going to be about 30 to 60 pages long, detailing all of the flaws. So it's important to focus on the big ticket items, you know, the HVAC, the plumbing, and the roofing, and really focus on those if you are going to negotiate repairs on those, because those are the ones that are going to cost you the most money. So I wanted to share with you guys a few tips before I end the video that I think will help you guys in your home buying process. But the first one is not to, put too much focus on small cosmetic issues. So let's say you find the perfect house in the perfect location and the perfect layout, but the paint color is one that you just can't overlook, you don't like. Try to look beyond that, because paint is relatively cheap, the labor isn't that expensive, and if you like everything else about the house, I think it'd be a waste to let go of that deal just because of the paint color. That's something that can be fixed in a weekend. So my advice to you guys is the perfect house isn't out there. Everyone has such various preferences that no house is going to be 100% to your liking. And if you can't overlook it and it would be cheap to do so and it makes sense, then don't let it go because of those small cosmetic issues. Before making an offer on a home, it's also important to understand the neighborhood activity throughout different times of the day. So before making an offer, I always encourage my buyers to drive around the neighborhood and really look at the traffic, the flow of traffic, and even to drive from work to the house during rush hour, because what would be a 10-minute commute can quickly turn into a 50-minute commute. So I always think that's important. It's important to drive by during the night to see the kind of traffic, the kind of people that are lingering around, and not only that, to kind of get a scope of the neighbors and see how loud the neighbors are, because that could be a deal breaker for some. My last tip is not to take out any big lines of credit or make any major purchases within 6 months of buying a home, because that'll mess up your debt to income ratio and you won't be able to afford as much house, and those ratios will be off. And especially don't buy anything big while you're pending closing, because that could really kill a deal and mess up your ratios, because the underwriting takes place days before closing. And you want to make sure you can get funding and that your debt to income ratios are accurate so that you can get that funding for closing. I've seen a lot of deals die because someone decides to buy a car, an expensive car, days before closing. Right, so I hope that video was helpful for you guys. I tried to make it as comprehensive as possible without getting bogged down on the details, but again, there are a lot of details to account for when you're looking to purchase a home, and I think it's very important, even if you use an agent, to be familiar with the process and to really understand how it works. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and leave a comment down below, and please subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos.